Hey, Against the Tide Media family.
I'm Tera Smith.
I'm Barb Malburg.
Welcome to Talking Back with Tera and Barb. I have so many favorite scenes, but I think I just like the humanity that Jesus shows in so many of the scenes, where he's brushing his teeth, he's playing with kids, he's kind of elbowing the disciples. So my favorite part of The Chosen would be just the humanity of Jesus.
I would have to say that my favorite scene is the calling of Matthew in episode 7, and which is also my favorite episode. And I just love that it's the culmination of Matthew's faith journey. And though the scene is only 3 minutes long from the time that Jesus and Matthew make eye contact and when Jesus tells Matthew that he's going to be hosting a dinner party, everything just works together so perfectly in that scene, from the music to Matthew's expressions, which change from shock to doubt, and then to hope, and then just surrender to Jesus, and he chooses to follow him. I just love that transition, and I love to see when Matthew just smiles for the very first time in all 7 episodes. And that scene also, of course, contains that all-important line, "Get used to different," which we all know and love. And then you just go back to scripture and you find that in all 3 of the Gospels that talk about the calling of Matthew, that it happens right after Jesus heals the paralytic. So you just get the sense that maybe Matthew actually was at that event, and it's very plausible that he was there, and then that was maybe the thing that brought him to belief in Jesus at that time. So I just love that.
Absolutely. Watching the Against the Tide media interviews has allowed me to get to know the actor. So as I watch The Chosen, I get to know the character, but I love getting to know the actor. Sometimes I hear about the backstory of a scene, how an audition went, and often I've gone back and watched more scenes of The Chosen so I can see what was shared in an interview. And I've definitely shared more about The Chosen because of the interviews. I'll dialogue with friends about an interview, or I hear a detail about an actor, and I've definitely dug deeper in my conversations because of the interviews.
Watching the Against the Tide media interviews has certainly prompted me to go back and rewatch episodes over and over again, as I like to go back and watch a character that after I've seen their interview and see how they react to certain things that they've talked about in their interviews. And then some of the interviews with their crew members, I like to look back at the technical aspects of maybe the special effects or the music or the lighting. And it's just always is exciting to see the way that scenes play out. And then I love to share The Chosen, because when I love something, I love to be able to help people to get as excited as I am about something. And so once I discovered that when I discover a friend might be starting to watch The Chosen, then I can introduce the Against the Tide media interviews for them to explore some of the background of the actors and things. So yes, watching the Against the Tide interviews definitely helps me share The Chosen.
My favorite interview so far that's just a hard question, but I loved Raina's interview. I loved being able to hear her sing the national anthem as well. But I also really enjoyed Adam Drake's. So he was a FAD on set, and he first assistant director, and he'd talk about making the production schedule, and I worked as a FAD as well. And it was just nice that I could hear someone identify with the struggle and how hard it is to make a production schedule. So I really appreciated his interview.
Well, I definitely love them all because I love behind the scenes material, and that I love watching that on any DVDs. I enjoy the the background material just as much as the DVD itself. But I'd have to say that probably my favorite one so far has been Vanessa De Silvio, because although she's only in that one episode so far in episode 8, that I just loved watching her character arc through the whole episode, and then to hear her describe how she got the role and to hear her sing in her interview were fantastic details. So I'm looking forward to hearing more from her in the future episodes in season 2.
One thing that I might be able to bring to Against the Tide Media as a host is just the experience of working behind and in front of the camera. And let me tell you, there is a lot of lingo when it comes to working on set. So there might be some value there, or just being able to dive deeper into questions about what a day looks like, or a character, or techie things on set. Also, one of my undergraduate degrees is biblical studies, so maybe that knowledge might be valuable as a host. And then lastly, just living in the Midwest. If we do any in-person interviews, Chicago, Nashville, Atlanta aren't too far away, so maybe we can even drive and do some in-person interviews with Against the Tide Media.
Being able to team with Tera and co-host will be a fresh perspective as we co-host together as Talking Back with Tera and Barb. So that will be a lot of fun, to be able to collaborate and interact with our guests and with each other. Will be great to use both of our styles in an interview. And I also love to dig into plots and characters of projects. So the details of The Chosen, especially, I after rewatching, I find new things every time I rewatch. So being able to ask those questions of the actors and the crew, I think will be eye-opening to our audience as well.
One of my favorite episodical series has been Alone. And so just the tenacity of the people to go build a hut and survive off the land with just a few things that they take. So I really enjoyed that. And then I really enjoyed I Still Believe, just an incredible film there. So those are two of my favorites.
I actually watch a lot of British dramas on PBS and shows like Sherlock and Downton Abbey and Call the Midwife, Grantchester, and I tend to have to watch those shows by myself because nobody else in my family is very interested in them. But I also love shows like This Is Us and Finding Your Roots, which is a genealogy show. And with my husband, we watch a lot of sitcoms like The Good Place, which is kind of fun, and Superstore and Perfect Harmony. And then we like to check out new things as they come available on Amazon or Netflix. And then some of my favorite movies were Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is always a favorite among our family. We quote lines from that all the time. And recently, like in the last year, the movie Yesterday was exciting and it had a lot of Beatles music in it, so that was great. And in terms of music, I am enjoying a lot of Aaron Shust and his new album, and Lauren Daigle and Phil Wickham. His new album is really great too. Well, there are definitely a lot of lines and a lot of scenes that make me laugh, like when Matthew's driver calls him public anus. That makes me laugh every time, and I've actually heard people question whether they actually heard him say that, but I think that is hilarious. And when Andrew says, "Get the papyrus," Simon's meta guy, I love that. And of course, when Simon refers to Creepy John or your bug-eating friend. And then, of course, every time Quintus, Matthew, and Gaius are together are always fun times. And then when Salome gets speechless around Jesus, and then Jesus laughs when she says, "Sage for Zebedee's indigestion," they definitely make me laugh every time.
So some scenes that I just have to laugh every time I watch in The Chosen is when Jesus is telling a story with the children, and they're all listening in, and it's kind of suspenseful, and then he makes a noise and they all jump and laugh. I really enjoy that. And then when Jesus had just healed his mother-in-law, and Jesus is like, I healed your mother-in-law, but really it was about Peter because he's a handful and I just needed her healed so, I could look after him a little bit better. So I just have to laugh each time I watch those scenes for sure. And so many other great laughing moments in The Chosen. I am a believer, strong in my faith. And I think because of that, I just want to give back and I want to serve Jesus. And so I love serving in my church. I serve in our children's programs. When we're able to go overseas on missions trips, I like to serve there. And then part of it is just holding down the fort at home when my husband is off serving. So yeah, I love Jesus and I love serving him.
Well, yes, I definitely am a believer as well, and God's love and grace just impacts my life every day, and having the assurance of salvation is what makes me want to serve Him. And I love serving at our church as well, and serving on the music team and on the tech team, and those are just great ways to show Jesus' love to those around me and love to share His love with those around me. And then I would describe my faith as always growing. And even after I've followed Jesus for a lot of years and I've been reading my Bible for decades, I'm always still finding new ways to apply His truths to my life. And I would even say that in the last year, since going to Israel last November and watching The Chosen, the Bible has just come alive even more just in the last 6 to 9 months. So I love that.
Oh, that's easy. Definitely Jonathan Roumie in The Chosen. Again, I just love the humanity of Jesus that he's able to portray so well. And I've drawn closer to Jesus because of his portrayal in The Chosen. And then also Jesus in The Passion. I've read about the crucifixion, but once I watched that scene, I just fell in love with Jesus just that much deeper. And then I know that the question says television or film, so I hope I can take this little bit of liberty. But as an actor, I have had scenes with Jesus where he took my burdens or he took my sin. And so during those times where Jesus was able to provide healing or peace or take away sin, those have really resonated with me.
I would have to go, I'll go 3, 2, 1. And number 3, I'll pick Robert Powell, who was in the Jesus of Nazareth short series. And that's the one I grew up on. So even though he's kind of blonde-haired and blue-eyed, that's the one I grew up on. So that he would be one of my favorites. And then Jim Caviezel in The Passion, which was the most intense and just gave a kind of a new picture, a more in-depth picture of Jesus' sufferings that he went through for us. And so that was just incredible. And then number 1, of course, would be Jonathan Roumie from The Chosen. And his portrayal so far has just been the most human and divine, both. And Jesus' depth of emotion and love and humility and sense of humor and his teaching just throughout so far season 1 has just been incredible. And I'm pretty sure that will not be matched from this day forward. And I think now seeing that portrayal, I think that's probably maybe the closest to Jesus's actual, his personality, and probably what drew people to him in the first place. Yes, I definitely believe that believers and non-believers together can make a beautiful masterpiece like The Chosen, knowing the level of care that Dallas and Amanda took to cast all of the actors and just how they bathed it all in prayer and trusting that God would bring them the right people to each of these characters and these historical real figures, bringing the story of Jesus and his followers alive in a new, fresh way. I just think that it's a beautiful combination of all the people that he's brought into their path and now into our path.
Definitely. I do think it's ideal if the captain of the ship is a strong follower of Christ. And what has been exciting for me is I have worked alongside friends who have said that while on set, people became followers of Christ, partly by what they saw the actors portraying as they told a faith-based story. And sometimes it was just the love that was shown by the cast and crew. But while working on set, people became followers of Christ. So am I wholeheartedly supportive? Definitely. I am volunteering because I got the shirt. Don't you love it? I love it. Another reason is I think it furthers our reach, right? So whether we're serving here in the States or overseas, often our reach is how many people potentially fill the room or the building of where we're serving or how we're telling about Jesus. But with Against the Tide Media, the reach, I think, could just go so much further, where we hear an interview and people around the globe can hear it. In fact, recently I heard that there are over 100,000 views on YouTube for Against the Tide Media. So that's just another reason. I love Jesus and I want other people to hear about him. And I love the reach that Against the Tide Media has.
Well, God's love is definitely what's needed in this country and in the world today, and Jesus is the hope of the world. And so I believe that The Chosen has come at a very important time in our nation, in our world, for people to absorb God's love through the way Jesus is portrayed, and then the gospel is presented throughout the show. And then Against the Tide Media is bringing the cast and crew to the fans, and it's just super exciting, and just I'm excited to be part of it. And I love how unique each person's story is and how open they are to the hosts and bringing their story to the fans and how appreciative they are of the fans. So it's just exciting to be part of it all. And I just can't wait to share more stories of those involved in The Chosen and other faith-based projects that we'll be able to bring to Against the Tide Media as well. So just very excited. Thanks for joining us on Talking Back with Tera and Barb.
Thanks.
Bye. I just love coming up with questions to ask folks as well. So that will be a fun. Start that over again. Noah, I'm not using this one.
And then when Jesus had just healed the mother-in-law of
Eden.
Yeah.
Or Eden's mother.
Yes. So sorry, Noah, we won't take that either. And then when Peter had just healed his mother-in-law, and
been reading my Bible for decades.
So here's my last question for you. Okay. Why do you want to volunteer your time to help us in this collaborative effort to further God's kingdom with Against the Tide Media?
There's a pretty cool t-shirt that I'd like to get.